Everything global begins with small things. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Confucius.
What is an idea? An idea is something that can be conceived in your mind but, unfortunately, will never materialize or see the light of day if you do nothing to pursue it. Today, we will introduce you to a man who proved through his actions that an idea, fueled by strong desire, can indeed come to fruition. This idea was born from his unwavering faith in himself and his abilities. Our hero, Steve, was born on February 24, 1955, and his life didn't start off smoothly. Even in his childhood, he faced challenges as his mother abandoned him and put him up for adoption. However, Steve didn't remain without a home for long, as he was soon welcomed into a new family. Paul and Clara Jobs, a married couple who couldn't have children of their own, decided to adopt him and raise him as their own. They named him Steve. Remarkably, from a young age, Steve exhibited remarkable gifts. He possessed an extraordinary combination of boundless curiosity, adventurous spirit, and an incredible aptitude for research. As time passed, Steve grew like any other boy. But, around the age of 12, his parents noticed his intense fascination with electronics. One day, he expressed a desire to help his physics teacher by assembling an electric current frequency sensor for the classroom. For many, these would be mere incomprehensible words, even in adulthood, but Steve had already shown a keen interest in this field. The only obstacle he faced was a lack of necessary parts. Most of us would have given up on this idea, but not Steve. He found an unconventional solution. Taking a telephone directory, the 12-year-old boy called William Hewlett. Many of you might recognize the name and realize that the person on the other end of the line was the CEO of the well-known company HP. Can you imagine? A 12-year-old boy didn't lose his nerve. He gathered his courage and dialed the number of someone who could easily dismiss him with a laugh and end the conversation without listening. But Steve managed to surprise William. After 20 minutes of conversation, William sent a driver to deliver all the necessary parts to the young aspiring inventor. Their dialogue was quite entertaining. As summer approached, Steve embarked on an internship at HP at the personal invitation of William. While still in school, he found a like-minded friend with whom he shared a passion for electronics. Instead of simply pursuing their individual interests, they decided to collaborate on a common goal. Both Steve Jobs and his friend spent hours soldering components and attended lectures and internships together. After graduating from school, Steve took a different path and didn't join the company where his friend worked. He ventured into the realm of personal computers. Jobs followed a unique path, immersing himself in his work as an engineer, pouring his heart, soul, and time into his projects. He dreamed of creating his own personal computer. While Jobs took a different route, his friend pursued his own endeavors. However, Steve's enthusiasm for his work waned quickly, leading him to make a life-altering decision. He chose to leave everything behind and embark on a journey of self-discovery, seeking enlightenment in India with like-minded friends. As he later reflected, those were the days when everything started to feel mundane, and the desire to vanish from the world grew stronger. Steve Jobs yearned for an escape, a one-way ticket to disappear from everyone and everything he knew. One of the founders of the Homebrew Computer Club, which was known only within narrow circles of radio amateurs, was responsible for the fruitful endeavors that followed. In 1975, he successfully created the first prototype of a personal computer, which had been his long-awaited aspiration. He proudly presented it to the company he had associated himself with since his school days. However, to his immense disappointment, everything went right according to plan. His brainchild failed to gain approval. It was a disheartening setback, but he resolved not to give up. He turned to the company where his friend worked as a designer, hoping for better prospects. To his even greater disappointment, that company also rejected his inventions, deeming them unprofitable and lacking potential for financial gain. As he recalled, people tend to doubt anything new. His invention was no exception. Fear of instability and a preference for stability and consistent income hindered its acceptance. Steve Wozniak, our protagonist, found himself with nothing. Working in those companies seemed pointless to him. For a few more years, he pondered the path his life would take. Just when he felt suppressed and humiliated, our prodigal son and hippie returned from India. His first visit was to his friend, to whom he shared his successes and the failure of his brainchild. The key revelation came to them, gathering his courage. Jobs proposed forging their own independent path and founding their own company. It was at that moment that the unknown individuals from the outskirts embarked on a new journey in their lives, a journey that would lead to success. Starting on April 1st, 1976, upon his return with Andy, Steve became intrigued by the concept of the Apple diet. He suggested naming their company Apple. Jobs, with his keen genius, knew that having the first letters in the name would secure them a prominent position in the telephone directory, as the internet was not yet prevalent at that time. The telephone directory served as the conduit between people and companies. Simultaneously, they designed the company's first logo, depicting Newton sitting under an apple tree. However, all of this remained on paper. They needed a tangible product, the crown jewel of their creation. The first product they developed was the Apple I, the very same brainchild that had been successfully initiated by HP and Atari. The name Apple I was a fitting representation. This venture marked Jobs' initial sacrifice and investment, as he had to sell his beloved van. Thus, Jobs' living space became their first workshop. Steve was living with his parents at the time. Clara Jobs, not one to stand idly by, joined her son's team and took on the role of a dedicated call responder. Her involvement added prestige to their company and projected a serious. In every company's journey, endless struggles with competitors are inevitable. Our trio faced their first competition with the 8800. The computer was manually assembled, featuring toggle switches used to issue commands. The resulting answers were displayed through combinations of illuminated bulbs on the front panel. The complexity of the task correlated with the number of switches, sometimes reaching 100 or more. In case of an error, the user would encounter inaccuracies in calculations, necessitating a restart. Despite sounding amusing, one of the first prototypes was assembled on a knee right. In Steve's bedroom, they lacked sophisticated machinery or modeling equipment. The trio relied solely on their hands, minds, and vivid imaginations to bring their genius to life. However, selling this marvelous device proved to be a challenge. No store wanted to buy their groundbreaking innovation. They faced rejection wherever they went. Only one seller in a small store agreed to take their product, but solely for sale purposes. To everyone's surprise, the novelty sold out within a week. Then, the guys realized that for production growth, a critical decision had to be made. They moved their operations to the garage of Jobs' house. The Apple I computer was sold for $666.66. This figure was not chosen by chance. It was intended to make a lasting impression. Money and promotion-related matters relied heavily on Jobs. The team primarily focused on production and technical aspects of the project, leaving financial and marketing aspects to him. Jobs found himself burdened with immense pressure. There were moments when he was ready to give up. Production was on the verge of closure due to a lack of funding. Jobs isolated himself from others, spending days without leaving his room, tirelessly calling every bank in search of money. They all rejected him. Just when hope seemed to fade away, Jobs managed to find the right person who convinced investors to inject funds into the company. They secured an additional $92,000 and a $250,000 credit line from Bank of America. With their hands no longer tied, they could fully pursue their desired developments and dive headlong into their favorite business, without budgetary constraints. Thus, 1980 saw the birth of Apple II. This upgraded model featured color graphics and a controller, as well as a disk drive and a file system improvements spearheaded by Wozniak. The brand new Apple II made a significant impact, propelling the owners to millionaire status and opening the doors to the American Stock Exchange. But life is an unpredictable journey filled with ups and downs. In 1981, tragedy struck when a plane he was on crashed during takeoff. Miraculously, he survived, but the incident resulted in a 2-year halt in his development. The crash caused him to suffer from amnesia, erasing all memories of his previous work. In the aftermath, he had no immediate desire to return to work. To continue his work incognito, he decided to study under a fake pseudonym. However, in 1983, he made a comeback, rejoining the company to resume his pursuit of innovative projects. His return marked a new phase in the company's development, but it also brought a sense of discomfort for Jobs. As a natural leader, he clashed with the board of directors, who behaved as though they were the true owners of the company. Jobs, once seen as the brilliant founder, was reduced to just one of the managers. One of Steve's distinguishing traits was his incredibly powerful energy that motivated those around him. He had a knack for inspiring people and conveying his ideas. He constantly aspired to be in a leading position, which led to his success in the Macintosh project. The project made him an idol to engineers, employees, and all those associated with the industry. Even Bill Gates himself was captivated by the Mac and became an active user. Steve's relentless pursuit of creating flawless products put immense pressure on the entire staff, he pushed everyone to their limits, demanding the very maximum they could give. He became completely consumed by work and success, often spending nights in his office to save time on commuting. The market became increasingly competitive and tensions grew. It was during this time that the idea emerged to hire John Sculley, the former director of the well-known company Pixie, as Apple's CEO. While Sculley was a successful marketer, this decision turned out to be a mistake. The board of directors, influenced by Sculley, did not share Jobs' management views. In 1985, they decided to fire Jobs himself. After leaving Apple, things didn't go so well for the company initially, but they continued to develop. Over the next 12 years, they focused on their own operating system and managed to stay afloat. Meanwhile, people speculated about which technology giants would acquire the remnants of the once well-known company. During that time, Steve was not idle. He devoted his efforts to promoting his new venture, Nex, and developing his own operating system, as well as creating computers for scientific activities. Interestingly, Pixar was under Steve's control during this time. The studio released hits like Toy Story and Monsters, Inc. Steve's work and the efforts of top managers propelled the company to unprecedented heights. In December 1996, Apple decided to acquire Pixar for a staggering $429 million, with the condition that Steve would return as CEO. Under Steve's leadership, a major staff overhaul began, and outdated projects were abandoned. He believed that if he hadn't been fired from Apple, he would have never experienced this new surge of development. The introduction of OS X followed a year later, along with the iMac design. While it may look strange now, at the time, it was the company's flagship product. In 2001, Apple revolutionized the music industry with the introduction of the first iPod. The opening of Apple Store retail locations followed shortly after. The iPod became a bestseller, thanks to its compact design and user-friendly interface. In 2003, Apple introduced the iTunes Store, allowing users to purchase music digitally. This shift marked a new era in technology and provided a fresh user experience. Steve's innovative ideas continued to reshape the industry. In 2007, he presented the world with the first iPhone, a groundbreaking device that revolutionized mobile communication with its touch interface. The presentation became an iconic moment, showcasing Steve's remarkable oratory skills. In 2008, the MacBook Air was introduced, thin, lightweight, and durable, with a signature hinge that allowed for effortless opening with just one finger. But Steve's drive for innovation didn't stop there. In 2010, he unveiled the iPad, a groundbreaking tablet that further pushed the boundaries of technology. August 2011 marked a significant milestone for the company, as it attained the status of being the most valuable in the world. This achievement allowed Steve Jobs to make a global announcement about his resignation from his position. He had accomplished everything one could ever wish for, and he entrusted the management reins to Tim Cook, who became the chairman of the board. Today, Apple stands as the market leader on all continents. In the first quarter of 2019 alone, the company generated a staggering $64 billion in revenue. It's hard to find someone on the planet who isn't familiar with the Apple brand. Steve Jobs, the visionary behind it all, continues to show the world that nothing is impossible. He demonstrated that no matter how challenging or arduous the path to one's goals may be, they can be achieved by wholeheartedly pursuing one's dreams. In 2003, Steve received a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. Despite his health condition, he dedicated most of his time to his beloved work. Steve passed away on October 5, 2011, around 3 p.m. at his home in California due to respiratory arrest. He was surrounded by his loving wife, children, and sister. According to his relatives, Steve's passing was peaceful, and his final words, spoken a few hours before his death, were, "Oh wow, it's remarkable to think that an ordinary individual named Steve Jobs became an iconic figure of oratory and a genius of his generation, inspiring millions of people worldwide. It serves as a reminder that the most ingenious ideas are born within our minds." This leaves us with a profound question: what are each of us doing to turn our dreams into reality? I invite you to share your personal thoughts and feelings about Steve Jobs and his creations. Until next time,